I hear lots of laughter and lots of wonderful conversation, so it warms my heart that you are all here with us today. My name is Tanya Blancett, and I'm the Executive Director here at the Tulsa Air and Space Museum. And it is a joy for each and every one of you to be here with us today to celebrate the 54th anniversary of, as Jim and Fred say, Boom Day. So Thursday was the day, the 54th anniversary of the day that Apollo 13 launched, and so today was the day that they had to do some good science to make it home, and Fred has continued to do many, many wonderful things, including, those of us who grew up with the shuttle program. We got, Fred was essential in getting the shuttle program going. So, and speaking of, smart and STEM, just want to talk about the mission of our museum here. We strive with our STEM education program to get as many children through our doors every day that we can, and just one of my favorite things, I just have to share, people always like, well, what's your favorite thing about this? Well, yes, somewhere down the list is sitting in the cockpit of the F-14. I actually did a Skype call, a live Good Morning Tulsa broadcast while sitting in the cockpit, I have to admit. Sorry, Alex, I know we're not supposed to sit in it, but I did. And so that's probably, and then being able to sit in the cockpit of the Spartan Executive, the very last airplane ever made by Spartan Aviation Company here in 1946, commissioned by the owner, J. Pogue. I mean, we're so blessed to have that one-of-a-kind aircraft, and it is so beautiful. And we've got some great volunteers that just shine it and make it look so pretty. But I tell you, my number one thing here, my favorite thing about the museum is when I see a group of kids, usually about 5th or 6th grade, I hustle through the back door of the office. I call it the Harry Potter door back there in the back. And I run around and I jump up on the steps and I watch those children's faces as they walk into the room. And a lot of them, it's the first time they've been here. And you just get that pure inspiration, and they just look up and they go, wow. And, that does it for me every single day. There may be days where there's a lot going on, or we may have water leaks or whatever going on, but I tell you what, all it takes is one good dose of the kids, and it makes it all better. So just remember that the reason, you guys are here today, and Fred also, he does a lot for other museums. You need to make sure and go visit his museum down on the Gulf Coast. But it's all about the kids. I'm a firm believer that as soon as we get into the workforce, it's our job to replace ourselves. It's our job to inspire the next generation that's going to come in and take those jobs and do a better job than that. So that's what we're about here, and we just welcome each and every one of you. And our vice chairman of our board, Timothy Reether, is here, and I'd like to invite Mr. Reether to come up and share a few remarks. And what Tim's not going to tell you is that he's also a pilot. And so he definitely, I think that you guys are always looking for good people to hire at your business. And we're all about the inspiration business. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you very much, and welcome on behalf of the Board of Directors from here at the Tulsa Air and Space Museum and Planetarium. Tanya mentioned about our mission and our vision. Our mission is honoring the past and inspiring the future. Our vision is preserving Oklahoma aerospace heritage to inspire science-based learning for discovery. And that's exactly what we see happen here every day when we have visitors, and particularly the young ones, the students. So every single day that we're open to the public, there are scores of children of all ages wandering through the exhibits and the displays. They're speaking with our fabulous team of docent volunteers, which we're very, very thankful for. And they're asking questions, they're learning, and they're dreaming. You can see the faces full of curiosity, excitement, and inspiration. That's why we're here. One of our very own from Oklahoma, William Pogue, was inspired to dream big in the same way that we like to see children inspired here today. And we're very, very pleased to have so many members of his family here with us today, and I'd like to just recognize them. If you just want to raise your hand so we can see where you're located. Great. Thank you very much for coming. Bill Pogue's life and career illustrated that same vision for learning, inspiration, and exploration. And through his accomplishments as an Air Force pilot, Air Force instructor pilot, Air Force Academy instructor, and of course, Apollo astronaut. We're also looking forward today to celebrating the success, I'll say, for Apollo 13. And of course, we have Fred Haise and Gerry Griffin here as well. And most of all today, I want to thank each of you. And it's because of your generosity and your continued support for TASM that we're able to be here and do what we do. So certainly a round of applause for all of you that are supporters and donors. Thank you again.
So I found that I learned something today. I like learning something every day, but I did not know that Apollo 19 had a mission patch. So, the Apollo programs ended after Apollo 17, and Fred tells me on the airplane trip here this morning that there was a mission patch. And I'm Lois and Space Hipsters, you've let me down. You didn't tell me this?
It's up there.
Oh gosh, yeah, you gotta learn something. So what's really interesting is if the Apollo program had continued past 17, Fred would have been the commander, and Bill Pogue would have been on that mission, and that's incredible. Oklahoma has a rich space aviation history, and we have some special guests here that are continuing the support in our government in aerospace and aviation. And I would like to recognize Senator John Haise and Senator Dana Prieto. And we appreciate you being here. And then, of course, our very special guest, Gerry Griffin. Gerry was a flight director during the Apollo. There were several teams, and so he was one of the flight directors for Apollo 13. And of course, you guys know that Fred is in the room. And again, we appreciate you being here. And I do want to recognize a special group of people that we could not keep the doors open without. And our donors are very incredible, but these are the people that deal with the children. And they fix everything that the children break. And if you haven't been here with about 125 8-year-old, 10-year-old boys, you have no idea what this place is like to recover that day. But I want to recognize our docents and our special project team. Can you guys stand and wave your hands? They're the ones that do the Boy Scout and Girl Scout merit badges, and so they're face to face with the children. And like I said, you're going to keep hearing this from me. It's about the kids, right? It's about the children. So just want to recognize them. And so I would like to also recognize our speaker for the luncheon, Mitch Rothman. Mitch, I'm going to let you tell everyone what it is and what you do. So come on up.
Thank you, Tanya, for that kind introduction. And thank you for your leadership guiding this beautiful museum. I've seen firsthand your dedication to this museum and your community. Both are lucky to have you at the helm. And thanks to the Tulsa Air and Space Museum and Planetarium for hosting this gathering of space icons and many space fans from around the country. Tulsa is indeed very fortunate to have in its midst this shrine nicknamed TASM, honoring the rich aviation and space heritage that is Tulsa and Oklahoma writ large. Oklahoma must indeed be proud of its many contributions to aviation and space history. For example, the Spartan Aircraft Company once manufactured aircraft on Tulsa's Sheridan Avenue on what is now the Tulsa International Airport. During World War II, Douglas Aircraft built B-24 bombers right here in Tulsa. No fewer than 9 major components of the Apollo Saturn V launch vehicle were manufactured here in Tulsa. And did you know that Oklahoma is the only state in the nation to have had an astronaut serve in each of the Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, Skylab, and shuttle programs? In fact, there were 8 astronauts in all. Mercury 7 astronaut Gordon Cooper, the 6th American to fly in space and the 4th to orbit Earth, called Shawnee home. Tom Stafford, who was aboard Gemini 6A during the world's first controlled space rendezvous, and who later commanded Gemini 9A, called Weatherford home. He was the first person to pilot a lunar module in the vicinity of the moon as Apollo 10 commander, and later commanded the American crew during the Apollo-Soyuz test project. Stu Russa, who as command module pilot for Apollo 14, spent 33 hours in solo orbit around the moon, grew up in Claremore, Oklahoma, graduated Claremore High School before attending Oklahoma State University. Former Skylab 3 and STS-9 astronaut Owen Gerry was born and raised about 120 miles from here in Enid, Oklahoma. One of a small handful of astronauts to have flown aboard both an Apollo spacecraft and the space shuttle, he was the first to operate a ham radio from space. Bethany High School graduate Shannon Lucid, who by the way was also the first mother ever selected to the astronaut corps, flew aboard the shuttle 6 times. For 179 days orbiting Earth aboard Space Station Mir marked the 2nd time an Oklahoman flew jointly in space with the Russian crew. John Harrington, who beside being from Oklahoma, is the first Native American to have flown in space. He flew aboard STS-113 to the International Space Station and spent more than 330 hours in space, completing 3 spacewalks, which are commemorated on the 2019 Sacagawea dollar coin. And the Oklahoma Historical Society's website lists one more Oklahoman astronaut. And though he hails from Biloxi, Mississippi, Apollo 13 lunar module pilot Fred Haise served in the Oklahoma Air National Guard and attended the University of Oklahoma. And of course, Oklahoma's rich history of space pioneers includes Bill Pogue, whose life and career we celebrate today. It is my highest honor to be here today to talk about a man who, as a native son of Oklahoma, served his nation in the United States Air Force, rising to the rank of colonel. A man who was a prolific aviator and pioneer in long-duration spaceflight. He was a great storyteller, as evidenced by his autobiography, But for the Grace of God. He was a beloved father, grandfather, great-grandfather, and brother. But he will perhaps be best remembered for his time spent as pilot aboard Skylab 4 from November 1973 through February 1974. Now, you may be wondering how it is that I've been asked to be here to MC this event this afternoon. Just over 2 years ago, I, along with my wife Paula, founded an organization we call Manned Space. Manned Space's mission is to honor and preserve the golden age of the American manned space program. Our social media footprint includes a Facebook group called NASA Manned Space, where daily we remember and talk about the early history of America's manned space program. On our YouTube channel called Manned Space, you can see originally produced content recounting those early days. And our mission also includes supporting air and space museums around the nation, institutions which serve as safe harbors for space objects and artifacts, and as stewards of early space history. My first trip to TASM came after the museum announced the temporary exhibit highlighting objects and artifacts donated by Bill Pogue. Among the very special objects Bill donated were 3 flight suits, like the one you see here, that he used, 3 of which he used during his Apollo training, and this one, he wore aboard Skylab. There was scarce space available to exhibit all the artifacts Bill donated, and there were no cases available to properly display these suits for public viewing. Seeing this, I was determined that the temporary Pogue exhibit might become permanent. We leveraged some of the thousands of supporters of manned space from around the world to raise the funds necessary to build this awesome display case, which incidentally will eventually have 3 more just like this to house the other 3 flight suits. In just over 3 weeks, Manned Space raised more than 3/4 of the funds needed to create the permanent exhibit. No fewer than 40 people from 13 states and 3 countries stepped up to support the effort. Please join me in thanking all those who made this exhibit possible, some of whom are here today. And I'll ask some of them to stay, and Paula and David and Matt. But even as we recognize those who have given, there's still time for you to give and join the growing list of space enthusiasts whose names will appear on the plaque that will adorn the new exhibit. On your table is a QR code attached to a card. If you scan that QR code, it will take you to TASM's website where you can give in support of the Pogue exhibit. We thank you in advance for your support. Let's turn our attention now to the man for whom this time is dedicated. William Reed Bill Pogue was born to Alex Pogue and the former Margaret McDowell on January 23, 1930, a mere 75 miles from here in Okemah, Oklahoma. It was as a young boy growing up in rural Oklahoma during the Depression that Bill first caught the flying bug. While standing in Mr. Jackson's peanut field at the age of 4, Bill eyed a Douglas DC-2 aircraft pass overhead. Captivated by the sight of the shiny flying object, young Bill determined at that moment that he too would someday fly an airplane. And so it was during the summer of 1946 when a then 16-year-old Bill did exactly that, completing his first flight lesson aboard a J-3 Piper Cub. And though young Bill was exhilarated by his experience, his father was not. When the elder Pogue learned of his son's flying adventure, he grounded him, quite literally. With his father forbidding him to fly again, it was not until Bill joined the Air Force in 1951 that he would again occupy the cockpit of an airplane. Once in the Air Force and beyond, however, time spent flying airplanes occupied much of his life. Following the outbreak of the Korean War, Bill enlisted into the United States Air Force. He reported to Borto Air Base in Florida, where he completed primary flying school before earning his wings and officer's commission on October 25, 1952. A day later, he married his first wife, Nita, and together the couple raised 3 children, including Tom, their youngest, who's with us here today. Second Lieutenant Pogue flew 43 combat missions as a fighter bomber pilot during the Korean conflict. After the war, he reported to Luke Air Force Base in Phoenix. It was here, while serving as a gunnery instructor, Bill was accepted into the elite U.S. Air Force flying demonstration team known as the Thunderbirds. Bill flew the F-86 and F-100 aircraft, performing in both the solo and later in the slot positions. While flying in the slot position in 1956, engine failure on his F-100 Super Sabre jet forced Bill's unplanned early departure from the aircraft. At that moment, he became a member of the Caterpillar Club, an unofficial amalgam of pilots forced to bail out of their stricken aircraft for a safe landing under silk parachute. For 2 years, Bill performed around the world before serving as an instructor at the United States Air Force Weapons School at Nellis Air Force Base, during which he earned a Master of Science degree in mathematics from the University of Oklahoma. Teaching was in the Pogue blood. Both Pogue parents had been school teachers, and Bill eventually joined the mathematics department at the United States Air Force Academy, where he taught for 3 years. From there, he accepted an exchange assignment to the Royal Air Force and attended the Empire Test Pilot School. Bill added greatly to the portfolio of aircraft that he flew while with the RAF. Throughout his life, Bill flew no fewer than 50 different types of aircraft, including jets, propeller airplanes, gliders, and helicopters. After his RAF assignment, a then Major Pogue was assigned to fighter operations at Edwards Air Force Base, where he applied to join the astronaut corps. And in April 1966, when NASA announced the selection of 19 new astronauts, the name of Bill Pogue was on the list. Also getting the call to join the Corps at that time was one Fred Haise. Bill was chosen to work on the Apollo Applications Program, which eventually evolved into Skylab. He supported the crews of Apollos 7, 11, and 14 before getting his own space flight. He was serving as Capcom for Apollo 7 when Commander Wally Schirra famously, or perhaps infamously, advised Mission Control